Welcome to the Crack the Code podcast. Today, I'm super excited to be talking about vision boards. A lot of us have tried them, it haven't worked, they had worked, maybe it took too long. So today we're going to get tips and hacks on how to do our vision board and get that going because it's January and we are all ready for a new year. So today we've got Debbi Schouls-Sluys with us. She's the founder of Dare to Declare. She's a coach, trainer, and speaker who specializes in helping people expand their brain's potential to see what is possible for their future with vision boards. As a former childcare director, Debbi studied personal development for over 30 years and has facilitated and witnessed science at work by guiding over 1,000 clients to identify and declare their vision both online and in person in her Dare to Declare studio. Debbi has been featured on many global podcasts, in the Corporate Escapist magazine, shared an event with Gabriel Bernstein, and interviewed by Jack Canfield. That's so exciting. Welcome, Debbi.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Jack Canfield's so awesome. That must have been super exciting to get interviewed.
It was really a culmination of a couple of years. Well, when I first started to investigate vision boards, and I had never done one up until 5 years ago, but I recognized the power of images as to create your vision because I had done my own branding photo shoot. And when I looked at the branding images, I was so inspired by my own image and what was possible. And so I started to research, and his name came up. Of course, like he's the original godfather of vision boards. He was in the movie The Secret with Bob Proctor and many others. And so I studied his work. I also read the Success Principles. It really looks like one of those tattered Bibles. Like I took it, by the pool. So it kind of has some watermarks, and it really became my Bible, and looking at that. And then, and when I first started my company, I went and heard him in Boston. I took his one-day training and was so just enamored with him. I tell people I do have a little secret crush. Yeah. It's not so secret on Jack because he's such a wonderful man in terms of what he has to offer. And he stayed all day, signed everybody's books, and was just such an amazing gentleman and so knowledgeable, humorous. And so when the opportunity came up in the summer of 2021 for me to be interviewed by him for his Success TV, I jumped at it. And even during COVID, I was able to fly to California with my husband and be interviewed by him in his Santa Barbara home, which really was a dream come true. But he, again, made me feel so comfortable. And what manifested actually from that, now it hasn't fully manifested yet, but at the end of the interview, I asked him how I could support him. And he offered me an opportunity to write a chapter in his next book.
Wow.
So that was just,
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
So that really blew my mind. Yeah. So I did do that with the help of an copywriter, someone who was at the very beginning to help me create my website. And so I went back to her, and she helped me put that together. So the book isn't published yet. It was supposed to come out this spring in 2022. So we'll see when it's coming out. I think with everything with COVID, everything's kind of backed up perhaps.
Yeah. So how did you get from childcare to vision boarding? Tell us a little bit about that story.
Yes, people think sometimes it's a big jump, but actually it really wasn't, in that in my role as a childcare director, I was director of a multi-site not-for-profit organization, and I worked with predominantly women. When I left, we had about 75 employees. And what I noticed was a lot of their challenges had to do with personal development, not so much professional development, even though my role was to support professional development. And our childcare was one of the leading childcares in the province for a new way of being with children. So I was becoming more familiar with leading, speaking, doing workshops around pedagogy and curriculum around childcare. But what I noticed within my own employees, their challenges had to do more with personal development. So when I was starting my own journey with personal development, I really wanted to share that with the employees, but that wasn't part of my role. And I wasn't paid to do that, even though I was coaching, not even recognizing it, perhaps more mentoring than coaching. And so that's why I started a side company, Dare to Declare. So at for a point of 2 years, I was doing both. I was working 9 to 5 and more as a childcare director. And then I was on the weekends and taking breaks from work, like sick days or vacation days, and doing workshops either in my studio or elsewhere in the province. And so that's how that all started. And I still have such a heart for educators. I was just up north, actually, in the Muskoka area, which is Northern Ontario, and worked with 30 educators last week.
Nice. Awesome. So tell us a little bit about vision boarding, because I know a lot of people have done them. I've done them. We've been taught so many different ways, and maybe we can start by even differentiating what's the difference between a vision board and goal setting. I think sometimes people get those two a little bit mixed up.
For sure. I think most people interchange the words vision and goals. And I did as well at the beginning until I really had an understanding of, well, it goes back to my why and my purpose. And so the reason that I create a vision board is, and I shared this with my interview with Jack Canfield, is I'm adopted. And so I feel that God literally picked me up and rerouted me and said, oh, you're not supposed to be in this situation as a child and as an adult. I'm just going to pick you up and put you over here. And what I know is that I was given literally another chance. And I mean, nothing's by chance, but I was given this beautiful opportunity. And so that was even before I was conscious. I was only 5 months old when I was adopted by my parents. But what I know now is that I get to live a life of gratitude. And the way that I demonstrate gratitude is by dreaming as big as I can and trusting that all things that come from that are from Him, from the Creator, from God. And so to go back to your question about vision and goals, a vision board represents that idea of gratitude as well, dreaming really big, knowing that anything I put on the board requires divine intervention. So it's not where it's just going to come from me, that if I work hard enough, it's going to manifest. And so that's the difference between goals and vision. A vision board, again, requires something bigger, more powerful, which is why it feels like a miracle, because manifestation really feels that magical, miraculous, like, how did that happen? Whereas a goal, we can set our mind to it, we can create habits daily, and we can achieve goals. Now, goals is the pathway to the vision. So, some people mistakenly think, oh, I'll just create a vision board and sort of sit on the couch, hold my arms out and hope that, things fall into my lap. It doesn't work that way. We have a responsibility to act, but we also get nudges with our intuition. And so those actions, when they're guided by the intuitive voice, and we all have it, just some of us, as we practice and listening more often, they become louder and more frequent. And that's what I was saying to you about Jack Canfield. I had that inner nudge, ask him, how can I support you? And I don't know where that came from, but I do. It was from inside. But what a weird question to ask an accomplished man like Jack Canfield. And I'm just a small town girl from Ontario, Canada. Like, who am I to ask that kind of a question? And yet what the results was, do you want to write a chapter in my next book? Like, that's how that happens. And I almost stepped over that intuitive thought. So when we have that intuition, follow with actions to accomplish our goals, then we fully manifest this beautiful vision. But we need to be in a state of receiving. And it can be very subtle, because what actually manifests off our vision board is often different than what we thought it was going to look like. So we need to continue to be in that state of gratitude, to look at our life, to also look at the feeling, the emotion, the essence of it, and have that constant comparison to our vision board, to keep, the vision board on the right or the left, and the reality, on the right or left, and continue to connect them. And then you'll see, oh, wow, there it is. I just didn't even see it, because it's actually bigger and better.
Yeah. And I think For a lot of women out that, you know, in the middle age, let's call us, dreaming can be hard. It's not something we've done. We've gone so many years, you know, raising our kids, doing our families, maybe having careers, and we kind of lost the little girl that used to dream. And so do you have some tips for people on maybe how to dream again and to separate that vision, you know, because that is sort of a bigger picture thing than a goal. And so how do you get into that state for a dream and a vision?
Yeah. Well, I would say also to talk to someone like you, because I think having a coach, having someone that can really hold your hand, stand shoulder to shoulder with you to hold you accountable, because by default, we want to go back into the goal because we want to control things. And goals feel less scary in the fact that we have control, whereas a vision, it's very vulnerable proposition to put out something that you have no idea how it's going to come to fruition. That takes a lot of courage. And so I would say that's the first part, is to find someone that you trust, or again, who's an expert that can support you with your goal setting and then with creating your vision. And also to create space for yourself. So rarely as women do we actually focus on ourselves. And I'm thinking, you know, the holiday season where people just are really focused on everyone else, you know, and so taking time for yourself. So creating a vision is one of the highest forms of self-care, because it's not about your family. It's not about your employer. It's about you uncovering what you really want. And that can take some practice, because for many years we've just focused on everyone else. So those would be my tips, is to carve out some time, literally schedule it into your calendar, you know, on a Friday afternoon or whenever it feels good, that you can be uninterrupted. Have a fresh piece of paper, a beautiful pen, and start writing it out. And then, yeah, of course, I'm a big proponent of vision board.
Yeah. So I know that the dream part is part of the first part of your process, and you have a couple more steps. So I'm hoping you're going to come back and we can get started. You're frozen. I'm frozen. Let's see. And you come home, man. Oh. Oh, there you are. Okay, that's me. All right. Well, that's all right. Good thing for editing. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay, so I'll continue where we were. So I was just going to say the first, I know the first step in your process is the dreaming part. And where do you go from there? You've got a 3-step process.
Yeah, there's 3 Ds or 4 Ds. So we start with dreaming, and then we dig in and discover. And I mean, it's not a linear process. I would say there's sort of this ebb and flow, because you're going to dig and discover, and then you're going to dream. But so they all kind of work together. So dream, dig and discover. And then the last is declare. And so that's the name of my company. And there's so much power in declaring. And I would say that affirmations are really the rocket fuel to your vision board, is that auto suggestion and the declaration is based on your goal.
Okay.
So you're going to take one of your visions, you're going to create a goal, and then that goal, which you can even use the framework of a SMART goal. You want it to be measurable, specific, and you're going to say that out loud every day or more than once a day. I say mine out loud and I write it out as I'm also looking at my vision board. So if you think about, you know, the messaging that we've received over the years and how it's just, I think of it like a fossil, like it's just like gotten like, you know, rock hard around some of these beliefs. And that now, I mean, in my 50s, I'm finally uncovering them and going, is that still true? I don't even know. It's just, I've always been told that.
Right.
And the way that we get to look at those beliefs and change them is through auto-suggestion.
Oh, that's cool. And is there a specific way of doing affirmations that you do? Because I know there's lots of different ways, and we have to do it in some way that our subconscious is going to believe it too, right?
Right, right. So I begin with the protocol, I'm so happy and grateful now that. And
Mm,
both, as I talked about earlier, Jack Canfield and Bob Proctor, who he just passed away this year, but both of them recommend the I'm so happy and grateful now that. And then you fill it in. It should be specific and brief. And again, as I said, looking at it's you're speaking about the future, but you're speaking about it as though it's in the present tense.
mm.
So
That's
for mine, I've had monetary goals, monthly monetary goals, because I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a coach,
mm,
and yeah, it's extraordinary.
that's so interesting. And I'm just curious, the people listening on the podcast aren't going to know this, but I'm looking in the background at your vision board, and I noticed that there's white space on it. And I'm wondering if there's that's part of your process, because I know a lot of times when you do vision boards with people, they have them just totally covered and things are overlapping. Is that part of your process to keep some white space in there?
Yeah, great observation. Yes, it is. So I think if I could, or maybe I will at some point, is make some merchandise and just have like a big X through collage, through the word collage,
Mm,
because collage, I don't know why people think that doing a vision board with collage is a good idea, because it's very chaotic. And the universe responds to order. If you think about the way the universe and the way our world is, it's very full of adventure, full of color. But we as humans have kind of messed it up with chaos. But in terms of nature, it's very ordered. And so the laws of nature, the laws of the universe are also respond to order. So you want to create order on your board. That's the first reason. And the second is that it enhances the focus.
mm,
So the whole point of creating a vision board is so that you daily focus on your board, so that it invokes the emotion, the feelings that you had when you first chose your image. And again, that's a whole other conversation that we can have. But again, and that we talked about the intuition, and that supports the intuitive thoughts. So instead of having the images compete with one another, overlapping, that your brain has to pull it apart as it's focusing, have them have some white space. I think of it like margins in a book. You would really struggle reading a book that didn't have any margins or chapters. It would be very difficult read. And so the same thing with the vision board is to leave that white space so the eye has a place to rest.
That's super cool. I know one of the things I've always struggled with when doing a vision board is just finding the images that you really want, that, you have an idea in your head, and, the people have a pile of magazines there. You don't always find what you're wanting to put on your board. Do you have any tips for that part of it?
Sure. And I'm glad that you said magazines, because most people right away are going to the digital option. And I'm a big proponent of paper. For one, going back to my early years experience, knowing that for children as well, when it's in the hand, it's also then much more connected to the heart.
Mm,
And this is really where we want the emotions to live. And so there's a difference that you're in the way you're using your brain when you're Googling an outcome, because exactly that, it becomes an outcome. So by using paper, by finding and discovering, going back to that dig and discovering your images, you're allowing the law of attraction to work through the process, not just at the end once you have your vision board completed, that you're like, okay, now law of attraction, here you go, do your work. No, it's right, even from the very conception of creating it, that you're relying on the law of attraction. So that would be, yeah. So, and then some tips, I would say, go to your library, local library, go to secondhand stores, ask your friends and neighbors. There's a misconception. People say people don't have magazines anymore. Well, my studio stands to differ, and my garage, because I have thousands of them, and people still do like having it in hand. And if I can also say, I just created my own magazine.
That's so
So
exciting.
if people are wanting and feeling, it is exciting. Yeah. So it said in my bio, I've worked with 1,000 clients. I think that's thousands now.
Mm.
I probably need to rewrite my bio. And so I've been paying close attention to their choices. And so the images that I put in my magazine are the most common based on my demographic. So I have to say, like, my demographic are women ages probably 35 to 60. So
nice.
Yeah, I mean, my magazine definitely represents that, but it's been a really amazing project, and it certainly cuts down the time to look through, 20 magazines when you have one that has really attractive images that people will want on their vision board.
Yeah, for sure, because sometimes it's difficult. And I know you have a workshop you do with people around words too. And because this is out in January and it's a new year, what are some suggestions that you can give people for having that good, like, power word? I think, is that what your workshop's called?
It is, yeah. I love that. It's a great place to start. If people have not done a vision board before, or they're just rethinking and like, oh my goodness, I created a collage and I threw it under my bed and, I just kind of hoped for the best. How do I do this intentionally? Well, a mini vision board or a power word is a great place to start as well. It requires low touch supplies, like really a file card, like a little speaking card or a recipe card, or even the back of a greeting card. So if you've got some leftover Christmas cards, the backs of those, you can rip it off and use that to create your power word. And so a power word needs to be joyful. It needs to be inspiring. It gets to be motivating you into action. And the last qualifier I would say is that it helps you feel safe. And we talked about that vulnerability idea, but what I mean of safe is that it's familiar to you, that it's like when you see that word, you're like, yeah, that's my word right there. So this year, my word has been pour, like pour into my academy. I have an academy where I instruct entrepreneurs and coaches in my methodology, and so they can create their own business using the Dare to Declare framework and methodology. And I have just been so joy-filled pouring into my academy. It's been so fun. So so really those would be my suggestions, is to use those 4 descriptors to discover your word, and then put it on a card. You can embellish it with images, doodles, whatever feels beautiful, because you want to have your card displayed in a place that you see it regularly. And that when you feel you're dipping below the line, what I mean by that is challenged, stretched, feeling in a negative spot, go back to your word. It's like a beacon, like a lighthouse.
Cool. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. I'm so glad we got to chat with you today, Debbie. It's been so awesome connecting with you, learning about your unique way of doing the vision boards, because it is a unique and different than most people I've heard about. Where can people get in touch with you? I think you have a little something on your website people can grab there.
For sure. Yeah. So I was talking about that quiz, that scorecard. So it's my name, which is Debbi, just with an I, Schlouss.com, or dare the number 2, dare number 2 declare.com. And there's a scorecard quiz on there as well. There's a little e-guide, which is 5 steps to create a powerful vision board.
Oh, that's awesome. So thanks so much. We'll have all that in the show notes for people if they want to learn some more or reach out to you and learn more about your workshops and how the vision boards work. It's been great chatting with you. And folks, if you're listening and you haven't ever created a vision board, or you've never tried this method, I highly recommend you reaching out and having a chat with Debbie, because it's never too late.